If you care about the environment, eat Canadian beef. Extensive beef production in ranch country is an agricultural system that promotes animal welfare, landscape conservation, and wildlife habitat protection. I know it's a message you haven't heard before, but it's absolutely true. Critics of beef consumption ignore the landscape conservation benefits of extensive cattle production. Grass and hay are perennial plants that cover the land with a permanent layer of vegetation, and I refer to that as a conservation blanket. This conservation blanket prevents soil erosion during rains and windstorms and provides wildlife habitat. Habitat for wildlife such as nesting ducks, prairie grassland birds, and my beloved sharp-tailed grouse. Cattle ranching creates an economic incentive to preserve, protect, and conserve native grasslands and many important habitats. Those great vistas of native prairie in Saskatchewan and Alberta represent a treasure trove of wildlife and biodiversity. And this landscape is still in existence because of ranchers and ranching. Some critics say we should bypass meat altogether and directly consume vegetables and grains. Well, from an environmental perspective, they're wrong. They're wrong because cattle convert a non-human food, grass and forages, to a human food, beef. A purely plant-based diet encourages the cultivation of fragile grasslands and would also require vastly greater inputs. As for the argument that red meat is bad for you, well, I take the view that if you give up fat, sugar, and alcohol, you may not live longer, it will just seem that way. So when you're about to tuck into that big quality Canadian steak, I'd like you to ponder what it represents. That meal of Canadian beef has contributed to landscape and wildlife conservation and supported the livelihoods of Canadian ranching families who have conserved our landscape and grasslands for generations. So be proud when you're enjoying Canadian beef, for you're doing a good thing for Canada's environment. You're supporting landscape conservation and ensuring that generations of ranchers to come will continue to look after the land for all of us.